Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Hello, Facebook. Muses coming to you live today. And the first thing I'm going to do is paint a little picture for you.
It's always a good start.
I'm just going to start by painting a little picture. It's this brilliant meme that I've seen. I wish I had it handy so I could pull it up. But it's the rim of a basketball hoop with the white backboard and a white rim. And there's a dog. And he is standing on the rim of the basketball hoop, just looking at the person who is taking the picture. And that is the meme. And it's like that one time when I got myself into something that I started to wonder if maybe I didn't want to get myself out of. And this can apply to a lot of things. It can apply to phases in our life, adventures, conversations, topics of conversation that are perhaps touchy, that maybe bring up some emotion in us, that maybe we all see from a slightly different perspective, depending on our environment and our upbringing and all of the things that go into who we are and how we show up in the world, our signature on the world. Sometimes talking about these things and really touchy subjects, really hot button topics, and very present events in our world are right now bringing up a lot of emotion. Mm. And not only are they bringing up emotion, but the things that are going on in our world right now, many, many different things, are dividing people. And there is spirituality all over all of it. Mm. So today we're going to talk about one thing in particular. And it is a topic that people see differently depending on the lens they're looking through and their experience. And there are certain words that we're not going to say today. But what we are talking about, I will call, I don't know, I kind of feel like calling it the experiment. Mm. And whether or not you are participating in the experiment or you are not participating in the experiment that's taking place on the planet right now, if you are stepping in line to have a procedure done to you as part of that experiment, or whether you're not, whether you've chosen to see this experiment through a different lens and from a higher echelon view, or you don't see any kind of experiment. All of those perspectives are invited to this conversation today. Now, let's start with the question. Because it's always fun to answer questions and sort of break in the conversation in that regard. So I'm curious, you ladies, what you see as the highest echelon spiritual perspective of what's happening right now and this experiment that people are or are not participating in.
Go ahead, Katie, you're up. Answer that one.
The first word that comes to my mind is divisiveness. It saddens me a bit because I see such a strong feeling behind the, whatever opinion you have about what's going on right now, globally. And, it's very just, there's a line and, are you on this side? Or are you on that side? And it amazes me how so many people just even start a conversation by asking, what side of that line are you on? Like I've never really had that before, like nobody's asked me, oh, did you get chicken pox when you were a kid? Or, it's just, it kind of pulls me back, like,
as you're saying that, I'm seeing visuals and the way that it's kind of rippling through the collective with like the Facebook badges that go around in a circle. And there's even people mocking that declaration by creating badges that say like, I just had a colonoscopy and I have an immune system and stuff like that. My body works fine. God designed me perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, it's cool, but then when I go out to the 30,000-foot view and I look down, it brings me sadness because
like you're doing it too. I don't know. It is such a fine line. It's like, where do we say, okay, I'm going to show up this way in love with a sense of humor in an attempt to share and bring awareness, and where does it become, I'm participating in the Matrix thing?
God, that's so tough. I think honestly, this is the way I'm seeing it on a spiritual perspective. This is almost the culminating of event of the last 4+ years of duality. You know, we're constantly being asked to choose to the point where our politics became our religious. It took over for religion. What side are you on with politics? And that became like a non-starter for people. I can't talk to my family members if they don't agree with me politically. And we move forward and we're getting into the economic status. We're getting into the black and white issue. We're getting into, are you taking the jab or not? To the point where they're talking about you have to have a badge to say which team you're on. I mean, it's
they're doing this in Israel, right? With the wristbands.
Absolutely.
Tell me about Israel.
In Israel, you have a wristband and you swipe it. And if it's green, like a green checkbox, and they're applying this to the testing requirement for kids to go to university.
God, it's like, have you guys seen that movie Gattaca? I think that was the name of it. It's a future realm where babies were tested in the womb and they were told how long they would have to live and what type of disabilities they'd be born with. If you had a certain percent of disability and shortness of life, you could not work. You were now going to be living in the slums. You could do janitorial work because that was the only position they would give you given your lifespan. And it was all in here. It was in a chip in your wrist, in your finger. And they had to badge to go into work. They had to badge to go into the metro. Are you healthy? Therefore, you can be successful, or are you possibly going to die of an illness? And it's the remnants of that to like the Holocaust, wearing any kind of badge. Anytime we say you have to show your affiliation to something, we are separating. We are showing a separation in culture. And where does that lead? If you ever look in history, that has never ended well for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't go well. Yet we love to keep bringing this back up as a really spiritual lesson. How long do we allow that separation? How far do we let it go?
As far as fear will let us.
It's so scary.
Because that's the thing. I think, most people's attitude is there's not much I can do about it, so I might as well just go along with it, and I totally get that, but yeah, like you said, Steph, at some point, how far are we willing to take that? It's a big experiment. And I feel like, we are in, and we have been for a while now in unprecedented times. And we continue to be, these times changing so quickly, and we are globally connected now. It's the ultimate butterfly effect. We saw it play out in 2020. Something happened in China, and a month later it was everywhere. So yeah, the word experiment is very spot on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for me, when you really look at the picture, when you take a step back and you're saying, okay, this is not about politics. It's not even about right and wrong. Just looking at the information that's coming out, the serious push for people to get this done, down to super young ages, even though they're being told they're not at risk. The commercials that are being put out there, the type of propaganda that's being put out there. all of that makes my skin crawl because it doesn't speak towards health. It speaks towards control. When you just really step back and look at all the pieces that are put in play here, that you can't fly without a vaccine, bad word, without the jab, you can't work. You can't do so many things unless you can prove that you have participated in the experiment. It doesn't take into consideration people that are not at risk and choose not to do that, or people who just don't want a foreign substance in their body. It doesn't take into account that we're pushing a first generation of something down to those low risk people versus allowing them to wait a couple generations until this thing has been fleshed out more appropriately. And it doesn't take into account the people who have had the illness and who have built up the natural antibodies. It's so much information that's not being addressed that you have to say, what's the goal here? And that separation, that idea of separation from a spiritual level, that just makes sense. Light workers, everybody, the spiritual world is saying unity, unity, unity. The 3D world is saying separate, separate, separate. And it keeps giving us multiple opportunities to separate. It's giving us more and more reasons every week to separate. We have 1,000 reasons to choose one side or the other. When really, we have to continuously choose oneness. It's a constant opportunity to choose oneness.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm just soaking that in because that was good. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, we need to, come up with ways how, maybe to guide people, to show people what to do in the experiment, where they can take steps of their own, little baby steps. And if everybody takes little baby steps, for one, I would recommend you don't even talk about the experiment with people that you don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, when you're sitting in the line to get a cup of coffee and the person that you've never met before turns to you and asks about your involvement, in the experiment, like, there's no why.
Yeah. I completely agree. And as a culture, we have to be willing to say, I'm not violating my rights in order to show you whether I have participated or not. Honestly, it's nobody's business but mine, because it's publicity. It just is. We haven't done that. I've never heard of that for any vaccine in history. And there's a lot of bad illnesses that some people get their kids vaccinated for and some people don't. It's nobody's business but theirs. And I think that is one thing that we just keep talking about, that is not okay to say that we have to violate our constitutional rights or whatever rights as a human in order to satisfy this fear-related situation.
Man. Yeah, a friend of mine, every day that they go into the office, they have to get a nose swab now.
Oh,
every
way. My job.
What if you love your job? What if you love everything else about your job?
Imagine allowing my body, my vessel, to just cyclically, repeatedly be violated in that way.
Oh, I agree.
That to me is like, it's making my stomach sick.
And what are the consequences of
the signals my brain is sending to my gut? I'm like, no. Mm-mm.
Yeah. The pressure that must put on.
Where are we going next?
Yeah, the body.
Next, where does this stop? When does my body become mine again? It doesn't, guys. It doesn't. That's part of the spiritual awakening to all of this when we're having this conversation. It is a stark reminder that we had better wake up and reclaim our sovereignty before it is completely lost. We are allowing it to slip away as a collective. So speaking about this, while it is really hard and I can feel my gut clenching, like my ego is even checking me going, don't say something stupid. You get yourself in trouble. Who's going to say something to me that is going to have an impact on me in a way that is going to make me feel sorry when I'm speaking my truth. That's just not going to happen. So this is, I would say, when I think about this subject and I talk about the experiment, to me, that is one of the first things that comes up. My body, and I saw somebody say it, my body, my choice,
Absolutely.
my sovereignty, my being. And then we can start plugging in all the misinformation and propaganda and all that stuff in the 3D world later, and give people a deeper understanding if they choose to take that path. Again, choice.
Yeah. Sovereign choice.
That first element, that first most important element is that we honor the being. And it's like you said, Chris, it's like, when has it ever ended well that we've begun, like, what, barcoding each other?
Yeah. Well, as soon as we start forcing people to wear a designator,
Declarations.
that separates them, we're in trouble. So is it okay to treat non-experimental people like lesser humans because they didn't participate? The pattern is there. The pattern is there for anybody who wants to see it. This has been tried throughout history as a wonderful control mechanism to separate society. We don't have to allow that to happen. And it's every single person has a choice, and that is great. No one can say whether their choice is right or wrong.
And there isn't a right or wrong. That's part of the crazy, and I call it crazy, but I think I can do better than that. Like, it's profound. It's a profound aspect of what's happening, that there isn't a right or wrong. You're participating or you're not participating. And either side of that could be seen as right or wrong, depending on the perspective of the person who's making that declaration.
A very good point.
When I say this, when I say you're participating or you're not participating, I'm talking about myself and people in my family. I'm talking about friends, lifelong friends. I'm talking about all kinds of different people. And the right or wrong thing comes back to the choice and the sovereignty. Do I have an opinion about it, about how all of this has unfolded and what it all means? Heck yeah, I do. Does that mean I'm right or wrong? I think if we do what Katie was talking about and stop participating in the declaration and allow the choice to be what it is, we take away that label power, that barcode. We take it away.
Yeah, those labels are they seem so simple and almost logical the way you put that forward. Of course we want to know. It's a very simple thing. It's a very simple thing. But one of my favorite cautionary tales as a kid was the frog in the boiling water. I don't know if you guys have ever heard this. If you throw a frog into a pot of boiling water, it will immediately jump out. If, however, you put a frog in a pot of cold water and slowly turn up the heat, it will boil to death. It does not get that same instinct to say, oh, this is wrong, because it happens so slowly, it doesn't realize how bad it is until it's too late. This is a wonderful, these opportunities always come out this way. They don't flash in front of our eyes and we say, oh, of course this is wrong. It's a slow progression until we look around and we're like, how did we get here? Yeah. And we're there. Water's boiling. Is this right or wrong for you? I don't know. I mean, we're all divine beings at the end of the day. There is no separation between us, and that is what we need to stand against. Not for or against the experiment, just no separation. You're not allowed to separate us by some man-made construct. It just doesn't exist.
Yeah, because I mean, I kind of look at what's happening now. I know it's not comparable to the flu, with the stats. I'm just putting that disclaimer out. It's not that I'm saying that it is, but what I've been told is we are going to ultimately be handling it like the flu, because every year there's going to be a different variant. You might have gotten immunized. This year I already have a friend that got 2 vaccinations and still got COVID, because there's so many variants out that they'll try every year, to give you a booster depending on what the most prevalent variant strain is at the time, just like what they're doing with the flu, right? Every year you get, do you want to do a flu vaccine? I choose not to usually, because what I found is a lot of times when I get the flu shot, I still get the flu, because it's like a different strain, and so, that's kind of my thing. But it's like, we don't go around asking people, have you had your flu vaccination? Oh God, you haven't, I'm going to run from you. You know what I mean? Like, it's interesting why there's so much focus on this particular.
Because it's not. It's not a vaccine. It's not a vaccine. There's nothing in it that does anything to protect anyone from anything. Nothing.
I definitely liken it almost to like a STD, right? If you had an STD, should you have to wear a label saying that you have that so everybody knows not to touch you and that you've got something contagious? It's you take it to that level, which sounds absurd, but it's really not. It's comparable. If you're saying we have to wear something or carry something that says our medical history for a complete stranger to check out to interact with us or not interact with us, you can go to that absurd level and say, all right, let's just put our whole medical history on here. What do you got? You haven't had chicken pox yet? Oh, I don't want to be near you. Oh, you've got an STD? Oh, we can't be friends. It's just, it's absurd. You can take it to that level of absurdity. I think it goes there very quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just reading that comment. I agree.
The crux of it is the propaganda. Like I said, that slow boil for the frog has been the fear propaganda. It's the commercials are really horrifying. It's old people dying and, children saying, I'm so glad that I could save my grandmother's life. And just, it's
the pressure that puts on people.
Oh, yeah.
I just went out of town last weekend and, crossed the state line. And so when I was coming back, how every so often, you've got the digital displays over the highway, that'll let you know, like if there's a car accident or something coming up. I probably passed like 4 or 5, as I was heading home, and each one that, have you vaxxed up? Get your vax. Make sure, if you're in this state, you've got your vax. And I was like, wow, they are broadcasting it everywhere that they can. And so it's like, it just makes you kind of go, why is there so much emphasis on this? Like, are we missing something here?
That's exactly how I feel. We have to be missing something, because it is not to the level where if everybody in the world doesn't get this, we can't go back to normal. Like, it's not possible. We'll die off as a species. And that seems to be the fear level that we're getting to the point where we're being told we are responsible for the deaths of other people if we don't get this. That statement alone, that's absurd. So why push it so hard? It just does not make any sense to me. There's something missing. And I'm a very left brain person. I love puzzles. That's my jam. I love puzzles since I was a kid. There are missing pieces.
Yeah.
I can't see the picture. There are too many pieces that are missing.
You could do another show and fill some of them in.
That was funny.
Get Kat back on here.
Oh yeah, it's too bad Kat's not on. She's the one that has all the statistics and
we can we can do that show.
Yeah, and this comment is absolutely right. The boosters, the pushing of the vaccine, that is a huge money industry,
Jab,
huge.
jab. Call it a jab, please.
I saw one commercial, and this is not completely on topic, but it was a commercial for the jab, and the woman put it in the arm and wiggled it. Like, if anybody puts a needle in your arm and wiggles it, walk away. That is not how you get that is not appropriate. Scared. She like wiggled it in there. No.
What was the point of that?
It was a commercial. I saw it on last night. Just one of
Whoa.
thousands of commercials for this thing. And the nurse just, I don't know, she was kind of wiggling it around in the arm.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah. It didn't sell on it the way they wanted it to. But we got Hollywood out jumping in, using their platforms for this. Uber's in there, give people a ride to get this done. I don't remember which state it was. My husband was telling us one of the states was trying to make it mandatory to carry a vaccine card in order to travel on public transportation. I think it was it Oregon? I can't remember which one it was, but carrying a card in order to not wear a mask. And if you didn't have the card, you had to wear the mask. But, and that was the other point that I had. I've heard it on the news, several different people talking about, well, we don't have to take off the mask because they're bringing down other sickness so well that we're just going to keep wearing them forever. Like, people aren't going to want to take off the mask because they see how much healthier they are. Negatory.
Not a thing. Breathing your own excrement is not in any way, shape, form, or fashion a health statement.
Yeah, that's surprising to me.
We do 70% of our detoxing through our lungs. Have we forgotten like basic biology, physiology, all of the basic sciences? What happened? The missing pieces. That's where they went.
That's where the missing pieces, absolutely. And the end point, we jumped into this wonderful highway of fear and shenanigans with absolutely no off ramp. Like, when does it end? When are there enough people in the experiment that we can stop talking about it? There's no discussion on how does this look at the end.
Who is
the reason we're not talking about it?
Yeah, who is going to sound the all clear?
Right, absolutely.
What does that look like? Who's that going to be? When?
My doctor had said, I think when population hits, it has to hit about 80% vaccinated to be considered herd immunity.
Okay, but herd immunity only exists in nature, and this is not natural. So that goes out the window. That phrase herd immunity, they've hijacked it because there is no such thing as herd immunity outside of natural consequence.
And that also doesn't take into account all the people that have been exposed. So if you have been exposed to the gene and built up antibodies, do you not count as a part of the percentage that are now lower risk?
See, that's my daughter. She didn't even know she had COVID, but she tested for antibodies. And so she works in the medical community. And so there's a tremendous amount of pressure on her to get, I guess I'm not supposed to say the word. I'm supposed to say, yeah. Okay. And I'm trying to explain to her, but that's not necessary, if you've got the antibodies. But now they're saying, well, we don't know how long the antibodies last, or this or that. And it's like, well, when I was a kid, like, if you actually had some of these things that there were immunizations for, naturally, you continued to have antibodies to them. So why all of a sudden now do you not? I mean, I get the variants, I get that piece, but
we're creating those.
Right. But it's not logical to say that
that's
man-made is going to be more powerful than what your body can naturally produce when it's introduced. Our bodies are incredible things, and to just dismiss what we naturally do in preference for a man-made thing that we also don't know how long it lasts or what it can prevent. That's another missing piece. Why?
What the consequences are.
Yeah.
We have no idea. You guys, this experiment killed the animals and they went straight to administering to humans. Humans are the experiment. It's a literal thing. It's literally the right word to use.
Yeah.
There is no better word.
We should be testing the antibodies instead of poking everyone.
Yes.
Amen to that.
If you have antibodies, I don't see any reason to get the vaccine to participate in the experiment. Unless they show me, I mean, science isn't going to work at this point because my spirit is already involved. My heart is already open to this information. I have my feelings on it. So that they can't change, they won't change that. However, that is such an important part, especially given how contagious we have been told that this thing was. I guarantee more people have been influenced and affected than they could possibly imagine, certainly more than the statistics show. So why aren't we talking about this giant population?
I have a question. If we're going to talk about the statistics, we're even going to bring it up.
Sure.
That way. Then my question is, where did flu and cold go?
They're still there.
Did you sit? No. In 2020, they were like almost reported at 0.
Oh, maybe because nobody went outside?
No.
I can only speak from my own experience. When I went in because I was sick, I had a sinus infection, and they wouldn't treat me. When they tested me for COVID and it came back negative, they would not treat me. So I don't know if they didn't register me as having a sickness. They literally would not give me any antibiotics for what I had because I didn't have COVID. I was like, I'm still sick here.
You're like, wait a minute. I come in every year, like this is a thing.
So I wonder, for me, I'm guessing they didn't register me as having been sick with that. And I got it twice. I get, I have to work on my energy levels. So they just refused to deal with it because it wasn't their focus. So whenever it comes to statistics, you're talking about what is the pool that they looked at, who's reporting it, who's not reporting it. Is there any bias in it? How big is the pool? Like statistics is such a biased form of information. It looks pretty. We all like our numbers, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend this toothpaste. We all love that stuff. But the bottom line is statistics don't mean more than those 10 people you asked said this. That's really all that it means.
Light. That's what we're doing. Let's bring on the light. Come on. We could use a little light, people.
And it's important to be able to talk about this not from an emotional or a judgmental perspective. And I love what Steph said about this is not right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. It does not exist in this. It is a sovereign choice. And if we can approach this and talk about it at that level, then we can shift this issue. It removes the fear, it removes the judgment, and we just are able to see each other as the beings that we are. Yeah,
I mean, you and I sit on the same, if we're picking sides, right? Oh, here we go. Blah, blah, blah.
What was the original one? It was the Edward versus Team Edward versus Team Jacob.
Yeah.
Team Edward. Team Edward.
Truly, if we are claiming sides, if we're making a declaration, right, that it's crap or it's not crap, what's happening, I think we both agree that it's crap, right? However, I believe both also know that we see different parts of it differently.
Absolutely.
As well as probably everyone who knows me or follows me in any way, shape, form, or fashion, knows that I think it's all a bunch of propaganda and bullshit. And that it's been tangled and intentional, and we could have that whole conversation. I also know that great minds in science, and I did drop a beautiful resource, Dr. Tenpenny, and a host of other beautiful light worker doctors came together to give their opinions on what was going on. So I would encourage everyone to absorb a different perspective if that's something that interests you. And if it's not a different perspective, you'll love it if you haven't already watched it. I don't remember where I was going with that, other than to just say that it is about coming together and being able to have the conversation and ask what is next, where are we going from here, and how are we getting there together.
Yes. How are we getting there together? Brilliant question. This us versus them stuff, it's a past dichotomy. We don't need that anymore. We've gotten past that as a people. We're smart enough to say there is no us versus them. It's just one.
And if we all say that, then even the people that think there's us versus them will hopefully be influenced, or at least open their minds to seeing a better way for society to move forward.
And I think that's why talking about this stuff, like talking about suicide, talking about the things that we do on this show, it's not easy, but being open to having the conversation in itself is a huge step. Be open to have your minds not necessarily shifted, just accepting of an opinion that's not your own.
Without emotional attachment or blame or judgment or all of the things that seem to come up, that anger, that right versus wrong. It's like, it just is. It is. It's an experiment and it's playing out. And none of us really, I don't think, can forecast. It's just like I worked in the mortgage business forever. And, back in the day, you used to, financial experts used to have the ability to come up with a pretty accurate forecast of trends and, what was going to happen. Well, you know what, around 2008, like all that, just blew the hat off. And we realized we are so globally connected now that even if we think, here we're all three in the US, things are one way. Greece has a situation, it's impacting us now, and so now, it's really, really challenging to truly be able to forecast, long-term. So I can only assume that overplays into science, into, a lot of these other aspects as well. I just, are we ever going to be able to even get to herd immunity levels? I don't know.
A long time ago, if it wasn't for all of this jabbing and closing and sequestering and shutting in. It happened other places.
Yeah.
We had a different path to follow here. And it was, dollar signs, but anyway.
I just had some friends over last night, and one of the mothers, her son is doing a year abroad and spent some time in Sweden recently. And Sweden never closed down. They never had a problem, through it. And so what did they do differently? What, maybe that's what we do is we look at the places, now they are a very healthy in general, group. They probably don't have as many of the comorbid, characteristics that, we might in a country like the US. Look at those things. Somebody else was telling me, I don't know if it was India, but one of the other countries, when COVID first hit, instead of, taking some of the actions that we've seen, they presented everybody with a packet of basic, I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but it was like, everybody got a packet with like zinc, vitamin C, like all the basic things that we know will beef up the immune system. And they did very well with that just basic precaution, keeping the levels under control. So it is interesting, when you look at some of these other stories, it doesn't have to be the way that we're making it out to be, the harsh way.
Yeah.
Putting road signs up, and making you feel terrible if you are the only one on the bus with the mask because you said something about the public transportation. And oh my gosh,
Oh yeah.
making you not be able to find a job because you refuse to go along with something, even though the people that have gone along with it can still get the very thing that they think that they are somehow safe from. I don't know. Very confused. It makes me scratch my head. I'm like, huh?
It's there's no good answer for how to shift this other than just to be willing to shift it, to be aware that this is not a state we need to exist in.
Oh, somebody did say Sweden had 90% more deaths than the neighboring country, Norway. Now, I did not know that. Okay, that's good.
Well, how do their populations compare? What are the exact numbers? I'd be interested to know that.
I totally agree with the idea of looking at, when you finish anything, any project, you take a look back and you say what worked and what didn't. It makes total sense. There's been states, there's been cities, there's been groups in the world who have been more effective fighting the virus than others. So it makes complete sense to look at what it was that they did well and what we did well and what we did poorly and move forward. For me, I don't think it's at all a coincidence that a country that prides itself on being so individual and so free and so open, that whole melting pot thing, would do this pattern, this path.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but we're doing numbers in the chat. And that's the question, that's the answer I was looking for, was what are the populations of each country? Because that's what you have to compare to the death.
So if you were to look at the countries as souls, they have their evolutionary cycles as well. The US has a teenage evolutionary cycle in a lot of ways. We still have a lot of the pushback, a lot of that independent, you can't tell me what's right. I'm going out anyways. I'll be back when I'm back kind of mentality. It makes sense that we would do things in such an extreme way and not understand why nobody else is following our lead or saying that our way is the only right way. Because we can have a very teenage mentality when it comes to things like that. If you think of it on an evolutionary cycle level, we had to go through the path this way specifically to address those factors. We talk about being open and accepting of ideals, religions, cultures, and yet we still come down to conformity. You are us or you are them, whether that is color, whether that's religion, whether you're in the experiment or not, your political party. We talk a good game, but this path has shown us that we aren't as accepting as we claim to be. And I think that's waking a lot of people up to, if we want to be accepting, we can be. It's very in our face now that we're not as accepting as we think we are. But I think this was an important path for us to take in the US, and I'm sure every other country has had their divine paths intentionally. But I think ours was as extreme as it needed to be.
It's not over people up.
Yeah, absolutely. You're waking up to saying this is everything that we've prided ourselves on, even our lives, what we thought we had to accomplish to have a successful and happy life. The hour of commute, the sitting in a cubicle for 9 hours, all of that, we realized we don't need that to have a happy life. In fact, a lot of it was an illusion. When you slow down and look at the world, you realize it's probably not what you want it to be. Maybe you're not what you want yourself to be. So how do you adjust? So I think we go to a lot of extremes in order to get that wake-up call that this is just not what we want to be doing.
And I have to say, one of the things that COVID has done is given us the space and the time to be able to really reflect inwardly on where we're at and looking at, the way that we do work in the world. And, a lot of people that were working in, huge offices, and now all of a sudden they find themselves working at their homes or, really questioning how they even do their work. And like me, I ended up, quitting my job and realizing that my true work did not no longer, fit this model, and I went off, on my own, and I'm so much happier for it. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's not just, this experiment is not just that. I mean, that's just unfolding in so many different ways at the same time, that it's like hard to even know what to focus on. It's like your head is spinning.
And do we want to go back to the way that it was before?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to see how far we can get pushed, which is kind of what's happening now with the experiment. We see how far they can go to separate and how strong we can stand together. And at the end of all of this, decide what's next. We can never go back to the way it was because we're growing through this. Every moment we're growing. We're deciding what our priorities, what our ideal life, what our ideal spirituality is. Every moment we're having those choices. I don't see us going back. I don't think we need to. I think we're moving to a better place. It's just going to have, these are some serious growing pains are coming.
And while we move forward, because that's what we want to do, is we want to keep our focus on moving forward, and creating a future that's better than, the reality that we have right now. Let's all make a commitment that we are going to do it together, that there won't be the separation, that we're seeing now, and all things come full circle. And we hope that, we can move past this, because that's what I stand for. I mean, I've seen the isolation, and I've seen how much we as humans need community, but we don't need to be segregated off into this community, only, believes in this, and this community only believes in that. That's not how you grow. You shrink in those type of communities. Because there's always going to be one person in any community that's going to go, oh, hey, wait a minute, I had a dream last night and now I see things a little differently. Or what do you guys think about this? And they'll be like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nope, you're out. And then that person's isolated again, like choose communities, surround yourself with people that can see all sides, that, at least have the ability to hold space for diversity, for, possibility, for unity, community.
That's a big evolutionary lesson that I've been hearing from Spirit, that need for community. We have been told, and I love the posts that I've seen about this. We've been told to separate. We've been told to separate. We've been told to separate. You can't look at each other. You've got this covered. We're trying to strip out the humanity, or that's what is being happened. They're trying to strip out the humanity on a spiritual level to show you what it feels like, so that you can choose that that's not how you want to be. We absolutely need each other. We're connected to each other, and you can feel that disconnect, what it does to you on a cellular level. It doesn't feel right. We're higher in depression. We're higher in sadness. Even looking at somebody in a mask in a grocery store doesn't feel right to me. It feels something is wrong.
I was going to say, speaking of grocery stores, because we talked about this after church this morning, that they're taking out more and more. And in a local grocery store here, I believe there's only 2 actual checkout lanes now.
Oh,
The whole rest of it is self-check.
wow.
And we talked about the separation factor and like just keeping the humans separate. No, you go here, you do your groceries. No, no more like being in line with people and having a person in front of you, and no more.
Oh, that's sad. I used to work in a grocery store.
It's just like coming like a wave, but it's like a slow, slightly warmer wave every time. Like Christina talking about the frog in the pot. This is the kind of stuff that's happening that we don't think too much about. It's like, oh, well, those self-checks have been there for a long time. We've been doing that for a little while now. Oh, now there's more. Oh, there's more self-checks. Where'd the checkout lane? Okay, well, I guess I'll do it myself. Next thing you know, we're just always all checking our own shit out.
Yeah. Groceries are delivered.
Connecting, and it happens slowly. We just look around and go, oh, wait a minute. How did that happen? where did all the checkout lanes go?
Right.
Yeah, I like to choose a real person too. I know that's kind of a highlight. I think Amazon they've been testing for a while, like, which I think would be so creepy, but like, yeah, there's absolutely no checkout. Like you literally just pick up a product.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow it knows you picked that product up and it's just like ding, it takes it out of your account. So you just go and it's completely like impersonal.
Get me.
You're right, Stephanie. That'll be next.
Yeah.
You'll see that next.
So that software already exists. That's how you get the ads on your phone into your email. When you pass certain aisles in the store, there's electronics in there that say, all right, your phone, Katie, passed this aisle. You spent this much time in front of this possible product. So they know to send you an advertisement. That stuff exists.
Crazy.
I mean, we're getting to, and I'd love movie references, so you got to forgive me. The WALL-E. Did you ever see WALL-E, the Disney?
Yeah.
When they're going around on those chairs, they're all drinking from their straws and their whole world is right here. They see nothing. They don't speak to each other in person. And as soon as that veil is removed, all of a sudden she's looking around like, we have a pool? We have a pool? That is a very funny but very possible thing. We get rid of community. We get rid of libraries, then we get rid of bookstores. Now everything's electronic. We get all electronic books. We get rid of tellers. We get rid of self-checkout because now everything's delivered. We have no need to see each other anymore. We don't need malls anymore because I get everything on Amazon for 2 days shipping for free. All of it's there. It's laid out. All you gotta do is just continue down this path, and I'm gonna be sitting there in a red sedan chair, not paying attention to what's going around me while I'm talking to a screen. That's completely possible.
You know what? Like if you would have said that like 5 years ago, I would have probably said you're freaking crazy. But now look at it. I'm like, yeah, no, that's probably not that far off.
I love how plausible some of those things are. If you really just take a step back and you take out the giggle factor of it, a lot of it is plausible. We're almost trying to get there when you see some of the things we're doing to separate what we call conveniences. Yeah, it makes sense. But again, if you go into a heart space and you feel what this separation has done to you on a heart level, you know that something's wrong. You're feeling it on a heart level. It's not right to be separated. We need each other. We need human interaction. I need to see your smiling face or frowning face. I don't care. I mean, don't stick your tongue out or anything. But I want to see your face.
Sorry, that was funny.
You can. You can stick your tongue out at me. It's all right. But this is not good enough for me. I don't like this. I did not realize how much I read people's lips and their emotions off of this part of the face.
Nonverbal.
Until it was gone.
There's so much. I mean, really like 70% of communication is nonverbal. You know, it's just a trip. I'm feeling called to pull a card for us on this topic, just to leave everybody with kind of like a parting, maybe guidance. So if you guys just continue talking, excuse me for 1 second. I'm just going to go grab my gun.
At least stuck her tongue out at me. Right back at you, lady. My favorite part of all these topics is, one, we're goofy, but we're happy people, right? We're going through all the same stuff that everybody else is. But being able to see that stuff from a spiritual lens allows you to maintain your positivity, your connection, your love of life. It does not feel like we are drowning. It doesn't feel like we're sinking. It feels like we're given opportunities. And I love that.
It does feel like opportunity.
I mean, not for Elise. She's written off my book now, but for everybody else has an opportunity. I'm just kidding. Yes, we are all connected. Absolutely. And the energy work is not hidden from the masks. The masks don't prevent your energy from touching each other, right? So you keep at a high energy level. If you keep your positivity, it will affect those around you, regardless of the masks, the visors, the full body suit condoms people are wearing in airports, and penetrate all that stuff. Have you seen those?
I have.
Freaking hilarious.
What?
I flew more in 2020 than I think ever in my adult life, and boy, did I see some stuff.
Full body condoms is really the only thing I can relate them to.
Kind of, yeah.
Plastic things that attach at the plastic things that tie down at the arms, the wrists, and at the ankles, and then large plastic gloves, the hood, a visor, and then like double mask. Like, dear God, a bubble would have been faster and more fun if you do like the gerbil thing. No, I've gone to the weird place.
I love you so much.
It gets
onto the dark side. Yeah, I was like, maybe I jumped in a little late.
Weird place. We can't words anymore. Sorry, guys.
it gets kind of goofy up in here after a while.
Oh my gosh. You know, it's interesting because I actually had 2 cards jump out, not one. So just looking both of these up. The first one was Water Guardian, and it's about connecting with your emotions, which, you know, is maybe what we need to do. We need to elevate our emotions, right? Because everybody is feeling so emotional about this, but what can we do to take, you know, the anger to love, right? You know, to take the low vibrations, you know, up to the level that we need to really come together, you know, to move forward. It's basically saying, you know, connecting with your soul, and the water in this card, this is the Water Guardian, is the element that is in your blood. It's your tears, it's your flesh. The Water Guardian represents the angels of water who can help you dive within and understand the depth of your emotions. And, you know, just being able to release, you know, stagnant emotions and tap into your deepest level of emotions, like the fear. And, you know, a lot of us are untrusting of others right now. And, you know, the governments and whatnot, the bigger picture is the angel of water will help you, you know, hear the messages and unlock, you know, the right level of emotion that you need to be at right now. So taking time to just breathe and realize that until you've neutralized your emotional charge to anything, you really shouldn't be stepping out and actively, you know, speaking, because what people are going to pick on, we talked about that nonverbal. They're going to pick up on that anger, and they're going to pick up on that energy. And that's what you're going to end up pulling toward you. And that's who's going to connect with you, that low level energy. You need to, you know, be in a high level, high vibe place, which I think we approached today. I feel like we were all very neutral, you know, for the most part in our emotional charge. And look at the,
me. Did I get that one?
well, Steph, you I think handled yourself very well today, because you could have been way more fired up than you were. But look, we all have slightly different views, but I think we had a beautiful conversation, and we inspired, you know, people to kind of see things a different way, and that's what it's all about. I just have to read
before you get off of that first card.
Yeah,
the conversation that Donna was having in the chat room earlier about introspection. And that's really what I feel when I feel that emotional card. Happiness is not something that's coming from without, right? You cannot find happiness and validation outside of you. It's coming from inside. That's where your emotions lie. If you get in touch with your heart and your emotions, there's wisdom there. It's going to help you feel and react in a way that's good for you. It's going to tell you what's right for your divine path. It's not something that anybody else in the world can tell you. So when you go inside and listen to your own emotional wisdom and really get in touch with that introspection, your potential for growth is limitless. All the information is already in here. And that's very much what I see when I feel that card.
And that's where your power lies. Like, don't give your power away, you know, for anything, for a job, for travel, you know, it's just, that's a red flag, you know, like when you're being asked to do that just, yeah. Because just because you get a jab or whatever it's called these days doesn't make you happier. You think it might, but ultimately, you know, you're not safe. I had a friend that got the jab and got the COVID. You know, it's like, how did that happen? Well, guess what? They're not 100% effective, and there's new variants all the time, and that's why you're going to need a booster. So, you know, yeah, absolutely, Chris. Like, we really have to find our own, you know, place, find our own center. The other card real quick that came up was Father Sky. And this is all about trusting in the unknown. And, you know, we are in a place of great unknown right now. And it's just saying that ultimately our larger path, this unfolding is happening exactly as it needs to be. And know that we are being led forward even in amidst the times that we are in. We are co-creators of our own life, which again goes back to that, taking that time to go inward to figure out what you want, what you think, what works for you. You know, it's no longer okay to blend in with the crowd because the crowd looks different, you know, and the crowd's asking you, what side are you on? Well, do you like the color blue? Or, you know, then you go stand over there. So you really have to get clear on who you are and the words you speak, what you're creating, what you're seeing in your reality, you know, what your perspective on everything is. So you're co-creating your life. Every thought, feeling, intention, and emotion you have is creating the road ahead. And with that being said, you don't need to know every single detail of what's going on, what's going to unfold before you. When this card appears, you're being guided to step back and get out of your own way. That's the emotions, right? That you end up being led by your emotions to where you're blind and you don't even know what you're following. So step back and get out of your own way, because there is a greater power that is not only around you, but within you. And Sky Father is creating the best experience imaginable for you. But that's only if you take charge and you are the master of what you see. You are the co-creator of, you know, how you move through this world. And accepting this will allow miraculous energy to come into your life. So see things from a higher perspective, like the eagle on the card. So yes, this card can also appear when there are opportunities to improve, you know, like a father, a masculine connection in your life, whether that could be, you know, heaven, your connection, with spiritual connection, or, you know, something on earth. But just know it's an opportunity to heal something and move past something. So hopefully, did you guys get any vibes on those cards?
Spot on. Spot on. Exactly what we were talking about. Complete validation that this is, have faith. This is exactly what's meant to happen. You can find that truth. You can find the comfort and happiness and strength right here. You don't need to trust anything else but your own internal wisdom, and have faith that it'll work out the way it's meant to. It was also the American bald eagle was on the card too, and we've been talking about America's.
Oh, fascinating. Yeah.
It really stood out to me, the bald eagle.
Yeah, that very good observation of that, 'cause I didn't even make that connection.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trust in the unknown. I love that. That's that faith that we always talk about. And it allows you to release a lot of the fear too. It's not on your shoulders to make things right. Have trust in the unknown that it will work out the way that it's meant to.
Mm.
And if you've got your spirit tribe, like we do, you're good. You can get through anything, right? So we are so grateful for everybody watching and all of the support. And let's continue to come together.
Amen. And on that note, guys, we're going to have to wrap it up. Although we don't really want to, because it's always so much fun. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you so much for the participation in the chat room. You guys are absolutely amazing. Your insight is priceless. Thank you so much for joining us. Please join us again next Sunday, every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific for a Muses Live. check us out in the group. Join the group for updates, for other stuff that we're doing. Look into Steph's retreat, Katie's daily or weekly check-ins. We got all sorts of stuff
Tonight at 5.
at 5:00. So just join the group for the updates. So you are always in our hearts, in our community, in our love, and together we will ascend. Until next time, you guys be safe. Have a great weekend.